Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Musical, lyrical lingo. Every episode a new bingo. Laugh and sing, go with the flow. Tune in as the memories grow.
Hello and welcome to Musical Lyrical Lingo. We're your hosts,
Tim and LJ. Today and every week we will be discussing musicals, but specifically what they taught us.
Welcome back.
We're back, part two.
Part 2, about to drop. Get yourself a wee cup of tea, a wee chocolate bar, whatever tickles your fancy.
Maybe an energy drink, it's a long one.
Oh my goodness, like literally, my brain is frazzled, just so you know. So goodness knows what I say in the next hour or less. Who knows how long this could go?
Yeah.
3 weeks, 2 years, longer than the show itself. We just don't know.
Well, please sit back, relax, if you can, and listen to our second part of Hamilton.
And we'll just drop it in.
Yeah, so a lot to learn, not just in the background. of
Okay,
it.
so full disclosure here,
Yeah.
folks. As we've gathered, I'm not the most insane of fans for Hamilton. So I had to do a lot of research. I mean, when I listen to it, I still am missing a lot of, a lot of plot. I had to do my homework.
Okay.
So I have 25 pages of notes, and that got me to musical number 5, and went, I can't keep going like this. So
That's wild.
it was a selection of
Okay.
numbers I picked. Okay, so
Yeah.
if you're one to go in order, good luck to you,
Okay.
because
No, that's fine. We'll just go with
we'll just go with what we got.
we'll just
Fair
go
enough.
with what we got.
And the avid fans out there will just have to jump
Yeah.
around the musical, because I couldn't keep going. I'd spent about 12 hours prepping it, and I was only on musical number 5.
Okay. So,
It was like I was writing, like I was running out of time.
okay, so I take it you didn't know anything about the American Revolution.
What do you think? Let's
No.
think about this. Is it a tectonic plate, or a volcano, or an oxbow lake, or a beautifully labelled diagram of a waterfall? No,
Okay. So
I'm a geographer.
So that was probably your biggest learning, was the fact that you were getting dates. And what was the revolution?
I was going Alexander who?
Alexander who? And in fairness, I think a lot of people were going, even though he is on the $10 bill.
But I didn't know that.
A lot of people were going, why is he on the $10 bill? Like,
Yeah.
what did he do? So, were you aware of Founding Fathers?
No.
No. So, okay. So,
And don't quiz me on who the other founding fathers are, because I couldn't tell you, but I know Alexander Hamilton's one of them.
yes, there's a lot of founding.
And is Jefferson one?
Yes.
Okay, I've learned
Sam
that too.
Adams and-
Oh, all of them basically.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Okay.
And John Adams and
Aye, they're all founding fathers then.
they're all people who founded America.
Okay.
John, yeah, that's where you get your signature from. Isn't that right? Yeah.
What was that? Because viewers
Oh,
might
yeah.
not have heard that.
You're John Hancock. John Hancock was the first person to sign it, wasn't he?
It was the first
John.
person to sign, so sometimes they put your John Hancock there, like put your signature there. It's fine.
Okay, got you.
Okay. So the very first song that it opens with telling us about this person who we haven't met yet,
Yeah,
and then all these characters come in to sort of say who he was, and you get the gist of it. It's a bit like Romeo and Juliet. You're told what happens
yeah.
at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if you weren't aware, you're going to find out within the first 5 minutes of the song,
Yeah,
which is called Alexander Hamilton.
funny that.
And it is, yeah. So obviously he's on the $10. You find that in it. You find out that he's shot. You don't know how he's shot. You just know that he's shot by this damn fool.
Damn fool who shot him.
That's it. A word that I had to really look up to understand what it meant in the word was providence. And it just means God and God's intention.
Yeah,
And this seems to be very evident. He was, he grew up. He was an immigrant.
yeah,
He grew up in the West Indies. Isn't that right?
yeah,
And then he ends up going to the mainland, which is America. But at this point, it's obviously being ruled by Britain. So he's an outsider and he's coming in, but he's the only one that survives out of his whole family.
Yeah.
So yeah, God had like
A plan.
a plan, an intention. Did you have anything in Alexander Hamilton? Or
I'm so like all over the place now here. I absolutely did have lots in Alexander Hamilton, but I'm going to go to my Alexander Hamilton who, as in who was he notes, or do I go to my musical Alexander? What would you rather?
Go with who was he?
Right, so was an American military officer, statesman and founding father who served as the first U.S. Secretary of the Treasury from 1789 to 1795 during the presidency of George Washington, the first president of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, that was almost, I don't want to admit that I went, oh, he was the first.
Okay.
But I did know that. It just reminded me of it. Born out of wedlock in Charlestown, Nevis. Didn't know where that was. It's an island in the Caribbean Sea. Was orphaned as a child. Was taken in by a prosperous merchant. Was given a scholarship, and then he pursued his education at King's College. Despite his young age, he became a prolific and widely read pamphleteer and advocate for the American Revolution. He then served as an artillery officer and saw military action in many wars and battles. Paraphrasing here a bit because we'll be here for 72 years. He served as, I thought this was cool, aide de camp. Didn't know what that was. French for helper in military camp.
Oh.
Yes. Basically meaning a PA or secretary to the person of high rank. And he was aide de camp to Commander-in-Chief George Washington and fought under his command, securing American victory and with it independence in the United States. Hence my good friend Lauren's idea to have this episode go out the week of Independence Day. You're clever. Scholars generally regard Hamilton as an astute and intellectually brilliant administrator, politician and financier who was sometimes impetuous or impulsive. His ideas are credited with influencing the founding principles of the American finance and government.
That's right.
And in 1997, historian Paul Johnson wrote that Hamilton was a genius, the only one of the founding, now this is obviously in Paul Johnson's opinions, but the only one of the founding fathers fully entitled to that accolade of genius. And he had the elusive, indefinable characteristics of a genius.
And I think, this is mentioned throughout the musical, is about how he was so clever and people realised that he was something special. That's why they sent him over to the mainland. How he was able to really build America, and he becomes a lawyer and he works on the federal system, and he, is right beside George Washington, helping him make really important decisions, especially during Yorktown and things like that. So I think it's only now people are understanding his work and realising how much he helped America become America.
Well, that's it. And he, as you've said, he then appeared on the US 10 biller. Oh my goodness, US $10 bill since 1928. Interestingly, in 2015, the US Department of the Treasury announced a redesign of the $10 bill with plans to replace Hamilton with a then undecided woman from American history. Now, don't get me wrong, I love that idea of putting, an influential female figure on an American note. Why has it not been done before 2015? However, possibly due to Hamilton's surging popularity because of the musical, the then Treasury Secretary Jack Hugh, I think, is that right? Jack Lew, revised the plans to replace Hamilton's portrait, instead deciding to replace Andrew Jackson with Harriet Tubman, great choice of a woman, on the $20 bill. And then Surprise, surprise, that decision would later be reversed during the first Trump
Yes,
administration.
it didn't actually happen. But yes, how funny that this was happening just as a musical where there's a very clear line to say that he's the $10.
Yeah.
You know, imagine if that had went through and changed.
Hamilton, the musical, totally saved his face.
100%, didn't it?
Yeah.
100% did.
Quite amazing.
Yeah.
Do
Okay.
you want to talk about the song then?
No, because that's all I really learned in the song was.
Okay.
I think the song is. I've listened to it so much.
It's a great opening number for setting the.
And I think actually the pace of it is good compared to some of the other songs which do go quite fast, because rap, obviously, that's why Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote it as hip hop, because he said there's so much to say it needed to be faster.
Yeah.
It needed to have those rapid fire lyrics, but it has that good pace where I think if you're really paying attention, you can understand the story and you can go, okay, all this stuff has happened and now we're seeing him as he's arrived at King's College.
Yeah. They sing, and every day while slaves were being slaughtered and carted away, see, I'm trying to rap here, across the waves he struggled to keep his guard up.
That's right.
Lynn wrote in Hamilton the musical, at the top, is that a book? That must be a book, is it? I think there is a book, Hamilton the musical.
Yeah.
So Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote that at the top of every musical, it's essential to establish the world. Hamilton's earlier life was marked by tragedy and a first-hand view of the brutal practices of the slave trade. While working at the trading firm, one of Hamilton's responsibilities was to inspect cargoes, which included slaves among the goods for sale. Slavery in the Caribbean caused higher death rates than in the colonies due to the harsh conditions under which slaves were forced to harvest sugarcane. Yeah. Hamilton likely saw the deadliest side of slavery during his teenage years, leading to his early and life beliefs in abolition.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though, this line is delivered by Jefferson in the play, perhaps the founding father most popularly associated with slavery.
Yes.
Jefferson and Madison were the only major founding fathers who owned slaves and didn't release them from slavery during their lifetimes.
And I think George Washington too. I don't know if George Washington released his, and because he definitely had slaves. And actually, in that American Hamilton's America documentary, David Diggs says, I think it's really important, and I really loved how he said it, and I'm not going to quote it exactly, but he says, yes, these people did amazing things, but also they were slave owners.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to try and erase the slave owner part to look at the good part, just like it's not important. We can't erase the good stuff just because they had slaves. You can have these two things go alongside each other.
Yeah.
And it goes in the same with hip hop stars or hip hop rappers. You can really enjoy their music, but not align with their political beliefs or what they're saying, you know, but we don't have to be so black and white.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were trying to do with Hamilton, is say, like, we understand that was back in the day and this is now, and we wouldn't do it the same way because we're looking at it with 21st century eyes. But that doesn't mean that it's okay to accept the fact that they had slaves and all that. But do watch that documentary. I think it's important,
definitely.
to respect both sides, the good and the bad.
Yeah. Funny you had mentioned like hip hop artists and rappers there. Interestingly, when I was like researching, there were loads of parts of the music or the lyrics that took a play on or inspiration from different hip hop or rap artists. Yeah. I just didn't write them down because I didn't know who the hip hop artists or the rap artists were that they were talking about.
There's a few that I recognise, like Ja Rule is heavily in that connection between Alexander and Eliza, where he goes a lot, like that sort of like harshness is Ja Rule. There's a lot of like.
You're such a rap. You should have a wee baseball cap on or something.
And then like Biggie, Smalls, the 10 Dual Commandments is a homage to his 10 Crack Commandments. I'm pretty sure that is. You've got the Roots, who are a big hip hop band, and they're sort of heavily influenced. But I'm not a massive hip hop
Yeah,
fan, so
same.
there's
I
a
was
lot,
like,
and there's more, like Beyonce. There's also Jay-Z is mentioned, and Alicia Keys and stuff. But yeah, unless you are in that world
and know their
their
music
world.
and their lyrics inside out.
Now, what world I am in, and I'm going to talk about just because we're on that, I am in the musical world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about all the musical references
Okay.
within the musical. So in Adam's administration, he says, "Sit down, John, you mother," and then it's like bleeped out. But the "sit down, John" bit is a reference to the musical 1776, which is about the Founding Fathers.
Yeah. Oh, I need to listen to that then.
Yeah, that's a really good musical. There's a film of it as well.
Okay.
Bill Daniels, who played Mr. Feeney in Boy Meets World, he is John Adams.
All right. Okay.
And that's what he's famous for as well. The line "In New York, you can be a new man."
New York, you can be a new
Which we
man.
know is a musical, Hell's Kitchen noise musical. My shot, you've got to be carefully taught, is directly from South Pacific. Right Hand Man is from Pirates of Penzance.
Be the right hand man.
And he talks about the general. Here comes the general.
Here comes the general. Yeah.
Nobody Needs to Know is from the last 5 years.
Okay. Yeah.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda was a massive Jonathan Larson
He
fan.
was. Yeah.
Obviously, he directed the Andrew Garfield Tick Tick Boom that was on Netflix. But where you've got, I'm pretty sure it's in Yorktown, and they go click boom. That is Tick Tick Boom.
Boom.
And then we've got in Yorktown again, it says "Go Man Go." That's
West Side Story.
And then Burr talking is like Judas and Jesus Christ Superstar.
Burr is actually his character's very Judasy,
Yes.
isn't it, throughout, and even how obviously like those two, they have history, don't they?
Yeah.
Duh. But the way it's played on stage was very Judas Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar. Do you know I didn't pick up on those musical references? That's really cool. Yeah, completely. Yeah. Can we go back to geography for a wee minute? And Alexander Hamilton, and your daughter mentioned it. She actually then mentioned she didn't like the follow-on song, Hurricane, but he mentions the hurricane right at the very beginning. Then the hurricane came and I'm not rapping, it's so embarrassing. Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned. One man saw his future dripping down the drain, put a pencil to his temple, connected to his brain, and wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. And the word got around, he said, "This man is insane, man.
Just got that collection just to send it
To the mainland." Anyway, so I'm so proud of myself. I did a bit of rapping there of Hamilton. I never thought I'd see it. So the storm or the hurricane, it was on the August the 31st, 1772. A hurricane did devastate the city. Hamilton lived in at the time. Historian Michael E. Newton described it, stating that the storm featured 70 feet swells, threw down about half of the island's buildings. I know, you see, you don't realise the extent, do you, just from a lyric? Do you know what I mean? It destroyed over 500 houses and uprooted all of the trees on the island's plantations, which I would have said at that time would have been, pivotal and really important. The total damage was estimated at $5 million. And at that time, that's a lot of money, isn't it? Hamilton, a self-educated teenager at the time, then wrote a detailed account of this hurricane. And the letter was published in the Royal Danish American Gazette. Miranda noted that a phrase at the end of this letter was his favourite, and Hamilton wrote, "The roaring of the sea and wind, fiery meteors flying out about it in the air, the prodigious glare of almost perpetual lightning, the crash of falling houses, and the ear-piercing shrieks of the distressed were sufficient to strike astonishment into angels." Like, that to me just meant... What a writer. Like, what a writer Hamilton was. Yeah. Like, and obviously you hear it in the musical about how he writes and he writes and he writes. And, his writing was so important. But, like, man, he wrote like that.
Yeah, and during
Isn't that insane?
He says, "I wrote my way out."
Yeah.
And he clearly did, because
Yeah.
if that's something that a teenager's producing about, you're going to go, wow, that person is amazing.
Like, totally amazing. And that reference to pencil, interestingly, it said a pencil to his temple forges a connection to Hamilton's non-stop writing ability. However, the reference to the pencil is almost certainly for the sake of rhyme, because the modern pencil was first invented in 1795.
Oh, okay.
Over a decade after the American Revolution ended. So Hamilton would probably have used a pen or a quill.
Yeah.
But not to poke fault.
Yeah, okay.
But Lin-Manuel's very...
The reason why Timothy hates it, because it's factually
incorrect. No. But to be fair to Lin-Manuel, he explains himself often, of, it wasn't right, but that rhyme's too good to miss. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, because you've got Sam Adams, where he says he doesn't meet he doesn't meet Madison, he doesn't meet Lafayette. Not Madison.
Lafayette!
Oh, he hasn't met Madison yet. It's the same character plays Madison. Right? John Lawrence and Mulligan. Burr, he doesn't meet them at the same time in history, but for the sake of the play,
you get them all in that first number, right? We need to know who these people, especially because they're multi-rolling. Like, you need to establish their first character pretty much straight away, so that when they change character, you're not going, what?
Yeah, okay. So John Lawrence says, I'm John Lawrence of the
place to be.
I'm working on I'm drinking with Sam Adams, and I'm working on 3 or something along those lines, right? Which was a beer, but actually Sam Adams was a founding father as well.
Yeah.
I've never drank a Sam Adams, have you?
Nor have I. I didn't know about it until
the musical.
Until the musical. That was another one of my musical.
Yeah, and I think that is just something that was put in. I don't think there was a Sam Adams beer around then. I think.
Oh, was there not?
Something said, yeah.
Hold on.
Redcoats is a reference to the British soldiers, but I didn't know that because my father was constantly watching historical things like that. But yes, it's very quick. This musical is very quick, and I think the fact that Pro Shot was released whenever it was released, it did give a whole new love to a generation who were able to see it rather than listening to it, because as CJ said, it's very fast and you're maybe not always picking up on the bits, and especially when it goes from meeting those guys into my shop, and then you're like, why, what's going on? At one point it's just cut off, and if you're not listening to the album like directly song, like, what is going on here? Even
at that, you need to keep up.
You still need to keep up.
Can I just go back to Sam Adams? Apparently it's a wordplay on Samuel Adams, a famous beer established in...
That's what it is.
Samuel Adams, remembered as a brewer, which is why the Boston Beer Company named their brand after him.
Ah, okay.
Who knows? I might be wrong.
No, you're probably right.
Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
My name is Alexander Hamilton. It's a very long time in that first number before we're actually introduced to Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, but I like that.
Yeah.
Because it kind of gives you a bit of suspense, and you're like, who is this? Oh, right, okay, he's had an awful lot.
Yeah.
And at what point in his life are we meeting him? Because there seems to be so much going on, and then you're like, oh, we're still meeting him when he was a teenager.
Yeah. So our title character finally does make his grand entrance with that distinctive established musical theme. Mm-hmm. Just in case you forgot his name, our star it's mentioned quite a lot with the earworm of a melody as well, and the motive reoccurs at numerous points throughout the show, just in case you forget. Spoken 6 times in this cadence by Hamilton himself, and another 9 times by the ensemble. Miranda stated that the cadence came to him immediately, and that Hamilton was an absurdly musical name.
Interesting.
Yeah, this entrance is set up by the introduction of Hamilton's various contemporaries. Miranda mentioned this choice, saying this song was originally written as a Burr monologue, when Hamilton was still as a concept album in his head, it wasn't until they realised they were writing a musical that he began to divvy up the monologue among the people who bore witness to Hamilton's life. This owes a debt to the prologue of Sweeney Todd. There you go, another musical reference. All of the characters set the stage for the main man's entrance.
Yeah. Love it.
Oh, he's such a clever man, isn't he?
He really is very, very clever. And there's a lot, even where it goes, me, I died for him. And you look at the characters that sing that line, and it is ones that are double cast.
Yeah.
And they do, like John Lawrence dies, but he also plays Philip.
Yeah.
Me, I loved him, and it's all three women.
Yeah.
It's just... I think every time you watch Hamilton or listen to it, you'll see something different, and that's what I love about it.
Do you know what?
What?
Let me be positive for a moment, because I feel it's been a bit negative, and it's not that, like, Hamilton's a great show, like an amazing show, and it's worth its hype. Maybe I will appreciate even more when I watch it again, having put the research, because what you've just said about those characters are, I didn't pick up on that the first time round, because obviously I didn't know the story.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I didn't know what to come. Ish. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like when the musical soundtrack dropped, like I listened to it non-stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose watching it again will be.
I think you should do that.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
Having said that, can I pick another hole? Just one wee tiny one. So he sings, moved in with the cousin committed suicide. Are you impressed? I got that. Any rapping song that I do in the right rhythm, I'm delighted with. After Hamilton's mother died, he and his brother were placed with their 32-year-old first cousin, Peter Leighton. James Hamilton Jr., Alexander's younger brother, later described his cousin as insane. He was a failed businessman, breaching bankruptcy and supporting a black mistress and their illegitimate child. Leighton killed himself rather dramatically on the 16th of July, 1769. Sources suggested he both stabbed and shot himself. Now, however, in the musical, on that lyric, one of the ensemble members mimics hanging to the word suicide, which is historically inaccurate. Probably easier to stage and a lot less bloody.
Yeah.
In ways, so
difficult to do the stabbing and shooting at the same time.
I love that line, Alexander Hamilton. We are waiting in the wings for you. That nod to waiting in the wings, that common idiom for theatre, meaning an actor is ready for their cue to come on stage. Metaphorically, maybe means the American colonies and people are waiting for Hamilton to arrive on their shores and to help shape history.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both.
There you go.
I love it. Yeah, I do think Lin-Manuel is very clever. I obviously spent an awful lot of time on it, and I think you need to appreciate the work that has gone into it. I wouldn't.
Oh, clever man.
There's a lyric there. There's a movement there for a reason.
Yeah.
My shot is the big.
I'm not throwing away my shot.
And I understand where CJ's coming from because it is overplayed. It is one that everybody's doing, but I suppose it's the first
and it's punchy.
They're all ensemble songs, but you know what I mean. It's the first one that you can really get going.
Yeah,
throwing some shapes there. He says unimpeachable, as she had mentioned, something that is above criticism or doubt.
Yeah.
Unimpeachable. Yeah, I can't even think of the line now, but yeah. And then also that word brandish means to wave something, especially a weapon or other object, in a threatening or excited way. And I think during my shot, it was written to show that these are young men who have a passion for their country and they want their country to be free, and they're teenagers or they're graduates. And that's why it's written that way rather than a group of men, compared to, say, the cabinet battles, which are maybe a little bit more sophisticated compared to my shot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of showing that journey of his life.
Yeah.
It is at that point.
I love that line. I can't remember it now. And young, scrappy and hungry. What
scrappy and hungry.
young, and hungry, and I'm not. I just love that line. I'm like, that's the line we should all live by.
Yeah.
We're young, scrappy, and we're hungry, and we're not gonna throw our shot away.
Shot. Yeah, and then also that is physically done with a shot.
Aye, they're having a good old drink, aren't they? The 4 or 5 of them.
And then Burr comes in. Geniuses, lower your
voices.
Yeah, and he's so different to Hamilton, and that is portrayed through how he speaks and how he sings, and how Hamilton is so fast and on the go, and then Burr is just
there's
slower.
a smoothness to him, isn't there?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Aaron Burr, sir, for a minute? That's, when Alexander sings on meeting Aaron Burr for the first time, he says, "Sir, I've heard your name at Princeton. I was seeking an accelerated case of study when I got sort of out of sorts with a buddy of yours. I may have punched him. It's a blur, sir. He handles the financials." And Aaron Burr responds with,
"You punched the bursar?"
Yeah. So obviously bursar, as explained in the lyrics, is a person who handles the university's finances. This figure was chosen to be the recipient of the punch because it continued the play on Burr, sir. In reality, Hamilton met with John Witherspoon. Do you think that's... he was the president of the college. Do you think that's where Witherspoons came from?
Oh, it's got to. It's not a very common name, is it?
I don't know. I was doing it and I was like, is that why we've got Witherspoons?
I mean...
Was he a drinker, do you think, this John Witherspoons?
He could have been.
The president of the college.
He could have been drinking all the young men's money.
All of the, what is it? The... What's that beer we were talking about earlier? Yeah. But in reality, Hamilton met with John Witherspoons, possibly accompanied by Mulligan, and outlined his reasons for wanting to graduate with as much rapidity as his excursions would enable him to do, is what he said. Witherspoons did take Hamilton's 2-year proposal to the Board of Trustees, but it was them who collectively rejected Hamilton.
Oh.
I don't think Hamilton threw any punches, but Miranda had a very simple reason for deviating from the real story, and he said the rhyme was just too good to pass up.
And
Fair.
Also, I think it's another way to show that he was feisty and fiery, because that was Hamilton, and he was also a massive flirt as well.
Yes.
Massive ladies. So
they all were, though, because Burr was as well.
Yeah.
I think in those days they just were, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it was important just to find somebody because they didn't know how long they were going to live.
That's true.
Make it past tomorrow.
I also liked in that line, it said, "Don't be shocked when your history book mentions me." Do you have that one?
Nope.
I thought that sly reference to Hamilton becoming part of American history, and perhaps even to the book that Alexander Hamilton, written by John Chernow, that inspired the musical. I thought, clever, Lin-Manuel. Miranda, very clever.
Yeah, and I also like the line from, it's not a musical like lingo, but I like where Mulligan says, and I've got all you knuckleheads on local parentis, which kind of lets you know that he's a little bit older than them.
Yes.
And just those wee small things, kind of, they're not always just throwaway lines.
Yeah.
They're adding more to the story, which is why you need to watch it again.
I will.
We come across 3 women, and they are called the Schuyler sisters.
Work.
And Angelica sings about Common Sense by Thomas Paine.
Yes, I had this one too.
Common Sense was a pamphlet in 1776. And I think whenever I first listened to this musical, I forgot that actually a lot of the times when they're referencing works, it's pamphlets that they're rather than books. And I forgot that was just the time period. It was like a lot of things are done on that. So, and this pamphlet advocated for American independence from British rule. And you've already mentioned that Alexander Hamilton was a big fan of these pamphlets and sort of delved deep into them. And there you can see the connection, though it was just made for the musical, between Angelica and
Yeah.
Hamilton.
I've been reading Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine originally published Common Sense anonymously because of its like treacherous content, but his identity was revealed about 3 months later. He ended up donating all of his royalties to Washington's Continental Army.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. In the Schuyler Sisters, they sing his daughters Peggy, Angelica, and Liza. Philip Schuyler and his wife Catherine were said to have had 15 children.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they appear in this order: Peggy, Angelica, Eliza, only once in the song, which is this line, to help fit with the upcoming rhyme again. However, the rest of the time in the Schuyler Sisters, they're announced from oldest to youngest: Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy.
Yeah.
The Schuyler Sisters. Perhaps coincidentally, did you know that that's also the order in which they died?
Yes, I did know that.
So Peggy died in 1801, Angelica 1814, and then Eliza in 1854.
Yeah.
But that's not just... That doesn't just happen by chance. He even thought about that.
I know.
Like I can't get my mind round
How somebody's so clever like
in
that.
so many different ways. Do you know what I mean? Like
I know, it's a real talent. Like,
it's insane ability.
Yeah, definitely is. As well as like everything else that's going on. Like this is his second musical that he wrote. Like,
yeah, I know. And like his first was really good.
Yeah,
like In the Heights was class as well.
It's just so strange. Yeah. Farmer Refuted, again, I didn't realise that song was called that, Farmer Refuted.
Yeah.
It mentions Samuel Seabury.
Yeah.
And he sort of reads out a note from the king. And he was a significant figure in American history, early development of the, can I say that right? Episcopal, Episcopal Church. Episcopal. That's it. Okay.
Episcopal.
He was a local supporter of the British Crown. And in 1775, Hamilton wrote an essay in response to Seabury's loyalist pamphlets.
And I love that bit in the don't modulate the key and not debate with me or something along the lines. I was like, love that. Yeah. And CJ mentioned that, didn't she, with modulating the key?
You'll Be Back, which is a brilliant
song.
You
were talking about British rule. I suppose we should talk about him, shouldn't we? Yeah. George Washington,
No, not George Washington.
No, not, oh my God. King George. I meant that. Like, he was in my head. It just didn't come out my mouth.
Lin-Manuel Miranda said that this was actually... the You'll Be Back was John Lowry actually said that line, and then that was the song that sort of came in his head. It kind of used the Beatles, sort of like, is that refrain? Is that yeah. To sort of do it, but it is a class tune. Like
it is really very Beatle-like. It gets in there, and you can sing it back, can't you?
And also, that part was always meant to be like a revolving door. It was always meant to be a part for somebody really famous to come in, because there's only really two songs,
and he's very standalone in what he does on stage, so it's easy to drop somebody in and pull them out again.
And we have had some big names in that, like Brian Darcy, James. We've obviously had Jonathan Groff,
Joel Montague
there.
Here.
Daniel is playing it at the
Daniel
Dominion.
Boyce,
And there's been, lots of people have just sort of fitted into that
and it's
role.
a really nice role to bring your own thing to the table. Like all of the King Georges, like, present in really different ways. Do you know what I mean? Which I think is really refreshing about a part.
And Lynn said the reason that he is solo is to show how how Revolution is a collaborative effort.
Nice.
But King George always stands as the monarch, which is one voice and one role.
Oh my God, like so clever, so clever. He sings, you say, the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Yeah. Now that just sounds like a clever or like funny rhyme, but actually one of the primary grievances put forth by American subjects prior to the start of the revolution was taxation without representation, i.e. Britain reserved the right to make Americans pay taxes on goods and trade without allowing them representation in the British Parliament, which set the tax rates. The resentment of the American people towards the taxes was famously realised in the Boston Tea Party, when the rebel group Sons of Liberty staged a protest of the Tea Act by seizing a shipment of British-controlled East India Company tea and hurling it into Boston Harbour, ruining the goods.
Yeah.
The British Parliament responded with strict sanctions.
I know. But yeah, like, and that's the second time tea is mentioned in the musical, you know, and it isn't just that they were, and it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back type thing. It was just, that was it. Like, we've had enough. Why are they controlling so much?
Yeah.
We need to stop this.
What a clever protest though, right? Chucking the tea into the sea. That's so funny.
Horrified, wouldn't you?
In that song, a wee melody, cool fact, or cleverness, I suppose, from Lin-Manuel again. He sings "Oceans rise, empires fall," and just Miranda creating that friction between the lyrics and the melody, where it goes down a few notes on the word rise, and it goes up in scale on the words fall. But you would never think of that. Yeah. Empires rise, oceans rise, empires fall. Clever.
Such a clever man.
It's very clever, very clever.
In Right Hand Man, which is when we're first introduced to Here Comes a General, rise up.
Here comes a general.
And we're introduced to
Not
George.
right-handed man, like your daughter thought it was.
We're introduced to George Washington. They mention Kips Bay, and that is just a place in New York City. And obviously you forget, like, that obviously the British are coming over in boats. Yeah. So they need to go to a bay. Yeah. And New York is obviously on a bay. So, yeah, there you
Convenient.
go. That's it. Also, Kips Bay, there's a lot of dueling that goes on, which...
Can we talk about dueling then?
Yeah, let's go.
So, I also wasn't aware of that as a way of dealing with issues. Okay. Back in the day. Yeah. Because when it came, like, actually, Hamilton was the first time I came across let's have a duel type thing. Do you know? Normally, you would think of like fencing and stuff, right? But like that in history, that's how they dealt with things. I was like, that's really bizarre. So Hamilton and Aaron Burr were political rivals with with different political differences, right? Hamilton was a federalist who supported strong central government. Burr was a democratic Republican who believed in strong state-level government, right? The rivalry would truly begin in 1791 and I can't say do you know what? We've been talking for so long. I've lost the power of my tongue. Culminated in Burr challenging Hamilton to a pistol duel on the 11th of July, 1804. The immediate cause of the duel was disparaging remarks made by Hamilton that Hamilton had allegedly made about Burr at a dinner. In June, the aggrieved Burr wrote a letter to Hamilton calling for an explanation. The two men engaged in a correspondence that ultimately resulted in Burr demanding that Hamilton deny that he had ever spoken ill of him. Hamilton felt that he could not comply without sacrificing his own political career. So, although Hamilton opposed the practice of dueling, due mostly to his son Philip dying as a result of a duel 3 years prior, in exactly the same location, he reluctantly accepted. The duel began at dawn along the west bank of the Hudson River on the rocky ledge in Weehawken, New Jersey. Both opponents were rowed over from Manhattan to kind of keep it as secret and away from other eyes as
There's
possible.
also that line in Hamilton where everything's legal in New Jersey, where they're talking about.
Yeah.
But this is how weird our podcast is. So I've been watching American Sweethearts, which is all about the Dallas cheerleading
Okay.
cowboy cheerleaders.
Sounds riveting.
So strange. And in the first season, one of the tryout girls is from Weehawken,
Oh,
New
wow.
Jersey. And the director goes, like, I wonder, is there anything famous that goes on there? And I was sitting in the room and I went, Hamilton, the duel. And I was like, I was in the middle of doing my research.
But how did an
while
American
that
not
was
know
on.
that?
Well, I don't know. But while that was going on, I was like, I could have been researching any musical. I could have been doing anything at that point. But I was researching Hamilton.
I know.
How strange. How strange.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Interestingly, in the duel, and you obviously see this in the musical, Hamilton did something called deloped.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that meant, but that's to like throw away.
His shot.
Yeah, I'm not throwing away my shot. Oh my goodness.
Oh, you only get
Click
it
boom,
now?
click boom.
Oh.
The practice of deliberately wasting one's first shot in a pistol duel in an attempt to abort the conflict. However, Burr returned with what proved to be a fatal shot. It hit Hamilton in the abdomen area above the right hip, fracturing a rib, tore through his diaphragm and liver, and lodged in his spine. I have no idea how Alexander Hamilton lived for another 31 hours with that amount of damage, but he at the time declared himself as a dead man, and he did die 31 hours later.
Also, in 10 Duel Commandments, whenever we're first introduced to that, the second time we're introduced to it, because we're introduced to it whenever they're in the middle of fighting in the Revolution, he's talking to Philip, and he says, no, if he's a real man, he'll throw away
his shot. Yeah.
No, that's pretty much what the whole musical is about, is the fact that
I
Hamilton
know,
threw
but
away
I
his
haven't
shot.
listened to it. Listen, I'm tired. Interestingly, duels were based on a code of honor.
Yeah.
So duels were fought not to kill the opponent, but to gain satisfaction, that is to restore one's honor by demonstrating a willingness to risk one's life for it.
Yeah. And there's a great, ever watch Bridgerton in the first series? The men do a duel over the honor of his sister. So
Right.
but I have to do it because this is, there's a whole big thing, but also I understood that because of the Hamilton. So also another thing I want to talk about, 10 Duel Commandments.
10 Duel
I haven't
Commandments.
done this in a while. I'm very
What?
famous for my misheard lyrics.
Oh, great. Can't wait for
So,
these.
it goes through number one, right? And it obviously goes through 10 times. And one says, look him in the eye. And then the next part says, aim no higher.
Yeah.
I always thought it said, look him in the eye in Ohio.
Oh,
But I
Lauren.
always wondered.
Why was Ohio so special
Yeah.
with regards to
Dueling.
dueling?
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. That's my misheard lyric for Hamilton. There's many, I'm sure, but that's the only one that really.
That's funny.
There, obviously, you've mentioned that there's a lot of stuff that has happened, or he just mentions but isn't actually true. Martha Washington apparently did not actually name her cat after Alexander
Oh.
Hamilton. Again, that is meant to be false, but what is
Yeah.
true, we know in Satisfied, Eliza mentions Ben Franklin. It's like the key and the kite, right? And that was his experiment to demonstrate lightning is a form of electricity, and that was conducted in 1752, and Satisfied would have been sang around 1780. So
Oh, wow.
that
Right,
is-
okay.
that is true.
Very good. Hamilton's lyrics are life lessons in themselves, aren't they? Like
Yep.
he sings, I am the only thing in life I can't control. Yeah. I am inevitable. I am an original.
That's Burr.
No, I know. Well, no, but I'm saying
Oh, right, okay.
Hamilton
Yes.
lyrics.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so no matter how much you want to control other people, you can't.
That's it.
You are the only thing in life you can control. And the second line there kind of goes with lesson number one, doesn't it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I love once we get past like the Winter's Ball and Satisfied and Helpless, and I think some of them are great songs, and then we get into the battle, I love Guns and Ships.
Okay.
Love that, and I love Yorktown.
Attack, retreat, attack, retreat.
Love all that.
Yeah.
And I have a great karaoke version of Yorktown, and sometimes Charlotte and I will just do it. And I'm like, I'm Madison, or no, I'm not Madison, I'm Mulligan, and she's Lafayette, and it is so much fun. And Aaron will come down and go, we have neighbours, you need to stop.
Is it really that bad, Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh dear, right, okay.
Yeah,
I think,
bounce it.
If I say, and we're,
I kind of think you need to do it and record it and put it on our socials.
no,
People need to see that.
you should do it with us.
I wouldn't know the words enough.
They come up on screen.
I know, but I don't know the tune. I just know, attack, retreat, attack, retreat. That's not even the tune.
I'm so good at it,
Yeah.
honestly.
You'll have to record it for me, just. I promise I won't put it on socials.
I'll do it for you one night.
All right.
Um,
Look forward to that.
it says, leave the battlefield in Guns and Ships. It says, leave the battlefield waving Betsy Ross's flag higher. And I was like, who is
Betsy Ross. Yeah.
Well, apparently Betsy Ross is a USA historical figure who is known for allegedly creating the USA flag. There's no real concrete evidence, but there is evidence of her family telling the story.
Yeah.
And just because it's not written down, sometimes a story passed on in family means it is. She was an upholsterer. She did exist, and she did make stuff for George Washington.
Well, there you go, because EP Aaron has slept through both of these podcasts, and he knew that because he was basically patting himself on the back
Yeah,
and giving himself his own round of applause. Well done.
yeah.
Have we bored you the rest of the time? Oh.
It also then mentions in Guns and Ships, we rendezvous with Rochambeau.
Rochambeau!
Consolidate their gifts. So Rochambeau is two things. Rochambeau is a French general who played a crucial role in the American Revolution.
Yep.
But it's also the American name for rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know. Did you know that?
No.
Okay.
Yes, it did. Just make me feel better. No,
I mean,
it
there's
didn't.
a lot of learning in this, isn't there?
There absolutely is a lot of learning. He was paperwork though. That's one thing I learned about Alexander Hamilton. He got himself out of tight spots. Yeah, he put himself into those tight spots, but by being I can't even talk anymore.
Yeah, all right. I believe in you. He wrote his way out.
He wrote his way out from letters and check stubs. Even though the incident that happened several years earlier, he was able to dig back from that paperwork. I'm talking about the Reynolds pamphlet. When accused of financial misconduct and an affair with Maria Reynolds, Hamilton produced a pamphlet admitting to the affair but denying the charges of corruption.
Yeah.
While controversial, this act of transparency, albeit self-serving, allowed him to control the narrative and salvage his political reputation.
Yeah. So he would rather have admitted that he was terrible in private life.
I thought you were going to say terrible in bed.
No, than admit that he was.
I thought that's where you were going. I don't know why.
He would rather admit that he was terrible in private life by having this year-long affair with your woman and paying her husband for the pleasure of doing so, than say that he was terrible at his job.
Yep.
Which is very strange.
It's quite the sword to fall on, isn't it?
And also there's a clever part, we know, being in theatre, that there's one play that you don't mention whenever you're in the dressing rooms.
Yeah.
And it is Macbeth. And once Macbeth is mentioned in this musical, that is the start of Hamilton's downfall.
There he goes again, being a clever so-and-so.
Yeah, it is his downfall. Really, I love when we get to Act 2 and we now have, lots of character swapping. And we've got the song What I Miss, and we're introduced
Are you only on Act 2 in your notes?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah. Right.
We're halfway through episode 2 and you're only hitting Act 2 now?
No, I know, but I'm just saying. I'm just
Holy
letting
moly.
you know. Like, I
Okay.
love that and the line, Virginia, my home sweet home, I want to give you a kiss. Virginia was Jefferson's mistress slave.
Oh, okay.
So that's why he says that. I'm just saying.
No. Listen, there's a lot, as I said, there's a lot in this.
There's a lot to learn.
Can I get another coffee?
Yeah, sure, go for it. Room where it happens, it mentions two Virginians and an immigrant walk into a room, diametrically opposed foes. And this is an adverb meaning completely or in direct opposition. They were direct opposites. And then room where it happens is that real shift for Burr, because he has, I'm willing to wait for it. And then room where it happens, he's not allowed in this room. And he goes, I want to be in that room.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to change my game here, my gameplay here. I want to be in the room where it happens. Right, okay, I'm changing.
Yeah. You had mentioned immigrants there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big theme throughout, isn't it? There's that line, see if you can spot him, another immigrant coming up from the bottom.
Yep.
That pro-immigration message of Hamilton is at the forefront as the show revolves around the life of one of the four founding fathers of the US and how he made his mark in American politics as an immigrant.
Yeah. Immigrants, we get the
job done. Exactly. Instead of being characterized as a white person, Alexander Hamilton's immigrant status is referenced throughout the show, along with the virtue and prowess of Hamilton. By working a lot harder and being a self-starter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as you've said, immigrants, we get the job done. Both stated in the show's opening, and fostering a positive image of immigrants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Multiracial casting of the show also supports the pro-immigration stance of the show. We'll maybe get onto that towards the end here.
Yeah. I mentioned that whenever there's my shot, it's all about they're a lot younger and they're trying to fight for their point. And then whenever it comes to the cabinet battles, they're a lot more eloquent with their words. They're really sort of hitting home. Jefferson and Madison are fighting to keep the South, and Alexander Hamilton just wants to be able to control the money and all of that stuff. But they're fighting over should they go and help France, because France then are in the middle of one of their many revolutions. Yeah. And they're saying, listen, we signed the treaty with a guy whose head is now in a bin. What are we going to do? Like that, we can't send aid to every single person that is in the middle of a revolution. We are barely a country ourselves here. We need to look after ourselves. And there's a lot of to and fro, and you can see both sides. But it says the people are rioting. There's a difference. Frankly, it's a little disquieting, which means causing characterization of unease or anxiety. So in this moment, everybody feels discomfort. And whenever you're watching a battle, you do feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I think those choice of words are important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm coming towards the end of my...
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you sad?
No, I'm not. There's a lot in it.
So much.
I think it also does take you to be watching it, to go, here, what is that? What did that mean? Or, actually, I get that now. I understand that.
Do you know that Hamilton would last 4 to 6 hours if it wasn't sung at the pace it's sung at?
That's mental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if it's sung at the pace of other Broadway musicals. Yeah. It clocks in twice as many words per minute compared to other musicals. Hamilton cast recording is 2 hours, 23 minutes long, with a total of 20,520 words, which works out at roughly 144 words per minute. The fastest tracks are just shy of 200 words per minute.
Whoa. And
I bet you it's Lafayette.
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 He was the fastest. And actually...
He deserved that Tony, didn't he?
Yeah, the whole musical would be longer. And when it got to Broadway, they had to cut a number. And a couple of their numbers, one in particular was Adams' administration.
Okay.
It was cut, and there was one or two more verses in a couple of the cabinet battles. But they just had to
shave them down a bit.
Yeah, I think they were going, okay, he needs to die now. He needs to die.
Needs to go.
That is all my...
Is it?
Yeah. That's
Well-
majority of them. The rest of them, you know, are not really that important.
One of the things and I wanted to leave it to the end because I wanted your opinion. It's this idea. Do you think Hamilton is the most famous or the first production to popularize blind casting? As in, Hamilton calls for like a diverse cast
Yeah.
to portray America's notably white founders.
Yeah.
It's obviously described as the story about America then,
Yeah.
told by America now. And, you know, you
Yeah.
said that Lin-Manuel had said that. Hamilton casts non-white actors as the founding fathers of the United States and other historical figures. Miranda said that the portrayal of Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and other white historical figures by Black, Latino, and Asian actors should not require any substantial suspension of disbelief by audience members. He stated, "Our cast looks like America looks now, and that's certainly intentional. It's a way of pulling you into the story and allowing you to leave whatever cultural baggage you have about the founding fathers at the door." He noted, "We're telling the story of old dead white men, but we're using actors of colour, and that makes the story more immediate and more accessible to a contemporary audience." In 2016, a statement responding to allegations of anti-white discriminatory casting producer Jeffrey Seller called it essentially to the storytelling of Hamilton that the principal roles be played by non-white actors. The only principal role played by a white actor in the original production is the one most played for humour, King George.
Yeah.
My question is, was it the first? Because I'm trying to think of a musical that came before Hamilton that ignored the historical
fact
and just cast, regardless of race, colour, any of that. Was it the first?
I think it's definitely the first that deliberately went, we're not casting white because they were white historians.
Yeah,
or, you know,
historically.
But I don't think it's the first blind casting. Like, I think that's what most musical theatre is. It's just the right person should be getting
I've
the role.
used the wrong phrase then. Is blind casting the wrong
No,
word?
I think blind casting is right. I think this is... Maybe
But
it's
if
not
you
blind
think,
casting,
but
though.
if you think of since Hamilton,
Yeah,
and I'm just going to use it because it's in my head, like Oklahoma,
yeah,
Ado Annie.
yeah,
Before Hamilton, Ado Annie would have always been cast as
yeah, white.
a white actress.
Yeah.
Now you've got black,
Yeah,
black actresses playing
yeah,
roles like Ado Annie and many others that would have historically been
yes.
cast as a white actress or actor.
Yeah, I suppose Guys and Dolls.
Yeah, now you go to the theatre and you will have no idea what race or,
Which is how it should be. It should be
1,000%.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what I'm saying is that a Hamilton effect? Is that another thing that because Hamilton was so obviously not afraid to do it?
Yeah. But I think there's a difference.
I agree with you. It should be the way it's done.
Yeah.
But I just don't recall producers or productions doing it prior to Hamilton.
I think there's a difference with Hamilton. Hamilton almost goes out of its way to make sure that the characters all are a representation of different ethnicities.
Yeah.
While now I think producers are going, it's okay if that person wants to play this role and they're the best for it, because
So it's two separate things then.
because if you think of like The Notebook and you think of Cursed Child, Hermione's always, from the day on our it was Cursed Child, Hermione was black.
Yeah.
Well, Hermione's not in the books or in the films.
Yeah.
So there has always been that out there, but then the fact that it's specified in the casting notes or something is maybe new.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, fair enough. No, I wanted to ask you because I couldn't recall, and then I didn't know if it was the same thing or if it was two separate things playing parallel.
I think it probably gave it light as to go, okay, well, what are you doing? I think it's a very tricky one whenever it comes to historical, because I think if you were then to take something that was, like Vietnamese or, going, okay, Kim is going to be white.
Yeah.
She's going to be white.
Yeah.
I'm going to play because actually there's more white people in Vietnam now.
Yeah. West Side Story without Puerto Rican representation.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think because Hamilton has always been that way, it's much more acceptable while trying to change something, like trying to change a Miss Saigon.
And you've got you've got that reasoning behind it's
New York now.
Yeah, America then being told by America now. Yeah.
Because if you were to set a scene or a musical in London now, it would be very different to setting it in My Fair Lady time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The same in Dublin or something, all those cities which have become much more cosmopolitan and I think you are telling it now. Yeah. So you have to represent people that are there now.
Fair. What were your standing ovations then for this monster of a musical?
Yorktown, Burn, and You'll Be Back. I do also like Wait for It.
Okay, mine would be Alexander Hamilton. If we were to do a pod on the top 10 best openings, it would be in there. I like My Shot. I like The Schuyler Sisters, Satisfied, and The Room Where It Happened.
There you go. You liked it way more than what I thought.
Oh, yes. I'm maybe not being clear.
You don't like it.
I won't go and see it because I'm not willing to pay the money to go and see it. Yeah. Because I think the ticket prices are extortionate. But I probably need to watch it a couple more times. But I did feel when I watched it for the first time, the pro shot, it's very long.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
And I wonder if it wouldn't feel as long if you were in the theatre and you were seeing it live compared to sitting at home on the sofa and watching it on TV. I think that's probably played a part in my opinion. And loads of people are like, oh, but you need to see it live. You have to see it live. It's not the same. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I know live theatre gives everybody a buzz and your arse probably won't be as sore sitting watching it in the theatre. I just felt the length of it watching it on Disney Plus.
Well, I definitely would encourage you to re-watch it on Disney Plus.
In bits?
Yeah, like watch it in, take it up to stages. Take it up to the first battle and then take it up and Philip dies and then take it, do it in sections.
I had planned to watch it prior to this, but I just didn't have the 7 hours.
It's 3.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
What would you rather do?
Oh.
I have 2 because I think I know your answer to the first one, so I'm prepared with the second. Perform an energetic In the Room Where It Happens from Hamilton or a sassy The Schuyler Sisters?
Who am I in The Schuyler Sisters?
That's so weird. That was going to be my second question. So answer the first one first and then I'll give you the second one. We know what your daughter's. Yeah, I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay, well, I'll go with room Where It Happens.
Oh, really? That's not what I thought you would say. I thought you'd say The Schuyler Sisters.
I was going to say Schuyler Sisters because I don't know which part I'm playing. Then I'm like,
but why does that matter?
Because if I'm just going, I'm Peggy.
Do they all have a wee bit in Schuyler? Okay, so the second one was, we know your daughter's answer to this, Eliza or Angelica?
Eliza.
Okay, so you and CJ, it would look completely wrong because of age, but you could play together.
Yeah. I don't think I could be fast enough for Angelica.
Angelica. I love that Satisfied number and the rewind. I remember that night for the rest of my days. That was so butchered. Right, so in the room where it happened, and then Oh, neither of them really apply to me. I'd do King George. I think I could do a King George.
You do very good King George.
You say
Yes!
the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay.
Love it.
You cried.
Love it.
Folks, if you survived those 2 episodes, I tell you what, you've got sticking power.
Yeah, well done.
But we've done it now. Hallelujah. I don't need to have anxiety over Hamilton ever again.
No. All good. All good. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back.
I am roasting.
Not a bigger. There's no real bigger musical than Hamilton out at the moment. Sure, there isn't.
I don't think there has been a musical that's had the impact that Hamilton's had. I don't think there will be for a very long time.
No.
I think it shows like Hamilton only happen once.
Yeah.
In a while.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They don't happen out very often.
No. But we'll be back with a musical.
And I think he's tried to do it again with Warrior, but it hasn't hit the mark for me, certainly from listening to it.
No. But he'll get there again.
He will get there again.
He will.
I might need to go and have a lie down after this for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you always. We'll be back next time.
Bye.
Tune in as the memories grow.